What if the pressure you carry every single day isn't coming from reality at all, but from a belief you accepted quietly a long time ago? A belief that says people are watching you, judging you, keeping a mental score of every move you make. So you hesitate. You overanalyze your words. You shrink your decisions just to remain acceptable. But here is the harsh truth Stoic philosophy forces us to face. Most people are far too consumed by their own fears, failures, and insecurities to genuinely care about your life. And once you see this clearly, something powerful shifts. As Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, "I've often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet values the opinion of others more than his own." That contradiction sits at the center of modern anxiety. Today we'll explore why realizing that no one cares is not depressing, but liberating. Because the moment you stop living for attention, you finally begin living by your values. Or why you feel watched even when no one is. Most people move through life with a strange, exhausting sensation, as if a spotlight is constantly fixed on them. Every word feels observed. Every mistake feels magnified. Every decision feels silently evaluated. But here is the uncomfortable truth. That spotlight exists almost entirely in your own mind. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect, the tendency to overestimate how much other people notice, remember, or care about what you do. Stoicism recognized this long before psychology named it. Human beings are not deeply attentive creatures, they are deeply self-focused ones. Think about a normal day. At work, you worry about how you sound in meetings. In public, you wonder how you look walking into a room. Online, you hesitate before posting, anxious about how it might be perceived. Now pause and ask yourself honestly, how much time do you spend replaying other people's small mistakes? Almost none. You forget them within minutes because your mind immediately returns to your own concerns, your deadlines, your finances, your fears about the future, your quiet doubts about whether you're living correctly. That is the point. Stoic philosophy teaches that suffering often comes not from events themselves, but from the stories we tell ourselves about those events. One of the most damaging stories is this: people are watching me. In reality, most people are barely managing their own inner chaos. They are not tracking your progress. They are not auditing your decisions. They are not judging your path with the intensity you imagine. Yet this false belief shapes behavior in powerful ways. It makes you hesitate when you should act. It makes you soften your opinions to avoid friction. It makes you delay change because you fear how it will look instead of asking whether it is right. In a workplace meeting, one awkward sentence can replay in your head for days, while for everyone else, it disappeared the moment the conversation moved on. On social media, a post that felt deeply vulnerable to you becomes invisible within hours, buried beneath endless noise. Stoicism cuts through this illusion with clarity. You are not being evaluated nearly as much as you think. And when you are judged, it is brief, shallow, and quickly forgotten. The irony is cruel, yet freeing. You feel watched because you are watching yourself too closely through imagined eyes. The Stoics warned against handing your self-worth to an audience. When your behavior is guided by imagined judgment, you give control of your life to people who aren't even paying attention. This is why anxiety grows in silence. It feeds on assumptions, not facts. Once you recognize that most people are absorbed in their own struggles, a subtle shift begins. The mental pressure softens, your shoulders drop, your decisions become quieter and stronger. You realize something essential. You are anxious not because people care, but because you believe they do. And when that illusion dissolves, space opens up. Space to act without performance. Space to move without apology. Space to live without pretending an audience is watching. 2. The day you stop performing, you start living. At some point, many people realize they are exhausted for a reason they can't immediately explain. They are not tired from working too hard. They are tired from performing. Performing confidence, performing success, performing calm, performing the version of themselves they think others expect. This constant performance drains the mind. It creates a divide between who you are and who you pretend to be. From a Stoic perspective, this is not harmless. It is a quiet form of self-betrayal. Every time you soften your truth to avoid discomfort, you teach yourself that honesty is dangerous. Every time you over-explain your decisions, you imply that your choices require approval. Every time you hide parts of yourself to remain likable, you weaken your own character. Stoicism does not ask you to be admired, it asks you to be aligned. Yet modern life trains the opposite habit. Approval becomes safety. So you agree when you don't. You stay silent when you should speak. You choose what looks acceptable instead of what feels right. This is how many people live respectable lives while feeling empty inside. The moment you stop performing, discomfort appears first. There is silence, no applause, no reassurance. That silence feels dangerous at first because you are no longer hiding behind reactions. But then something unexpected happens: relief. You stop needing to say the perfect thing. You stop explaining decisions that are already clear to you. You stop needing everyone to understand your path. Stoic philosophy teaches that peace comes from acting according to principle, not perception. Virtue does not need witnesses. Integrity does not require validation. When you stop performing, your presence changes. You speak less, but with intention. You act more quietly, but with conviction. You disappoint some people and finally stop disappointing yourself. This is where real freedom begins. Not in praise, not in visibility, but in no longer auditioning for approval. 3. No one cares. And that is your greatest advantage. There is a moment that changes everything. It is not loud. It does not feel dramatic. It arrives quietly, almost disappointingly. You realize that no one is watching your life as closely as you imagined. People are busy with their bills, their health, their regrets, their unfinished dreams. They are not tracking your progress. They are not waiting for you to fail or succeed. They are not keeping a mental record of your choices. Once this truth settles in, fear begins to loosen its grip. Most hesitation comes from the belief that your mistakes will define you in the eyes of others. In reality, most people forget your missteps almost immediately, if they notice them at all. What feels like a defining moment to you is often just background noise to everyone else. This indifference can feel uncomfortable at first. The ego wants attention. It wants significance through being seen. But Stoic philosophy reframes this completely. If no one is watching, you are free to experiment, free to change direction, free to begin again without asking permission. This becomes especially powerful later in life. Many people delay change because they think it is too late to switch paths, too late to learn something new, too late to redefine themselves. But too late for whom? There is no audience grading your timeline, no judge comparing your pace to someone else's highlight reel. When you accept that no one cares, excuses collapse. So does shame. You no longer need to protect an image. You no longer need to defend past decisions. You no longer need to pretend consistency when growth is required. You can build quietly. You can fail privately. You can improve without announcing it. This is why indifference becomes an advantage. It creates space. Space to focus, space to act without pressure, space to do the right thing slowly and imperfectly. The Stoic understands this well. Great work is not performed, it is constructed in silence. Strength is not announced, it is accumulated. When no one is watching, discipline becomes easier, progress becomes honest, motivation becomes internal instead of reactive. This is the hidden gift most people never unwrap. They spend their lives trying to be noticed, while freedom waits quietly in the realization that attention was never required. When no one is watching, you are no longer constrained by expectations. You are guided by principles, and that is when real building begins. 4. The prison of wanting to be seen. Wanting to be seen feels natural, it feels human, but when that desire turns into a need, it quietly becomes a prison. Most people never realize they are trapped because the bars cannot be seen. This prison is built from approval, attention, and validation. And once you step inside it, every action begins to revolve around how it will be received. You choose words for impact instead of truth. You measure success by reaction instead of substance. You start living as if meaning only exists when someone else acknowledges it. Stoic philosophy gives a clear warning here. The moment you require validation, you give up control. Your mood becomes dependent. Your confidence becomes fragile. Your direction becomes unstable. Modern life strengthens this trap. Likes, praise, and recognition function like small rewards that slowly train behavior. Over time, you begin to connect worth with visibility, and quietly, almost without noticing, your inner compass weakens. The real danger is not vanity. The real danger is dependence. When approval becomes necessary, silence feels like rejection. When praise disappears, doubt rushes in. You become easier to influence because attention can be given or taken away to control you. The Stoics understood this deeply. They trained themselves to act well even when unseen, especially when unseen. A person who needs recognition cannot remain consistent. They adjust themselves to each room. They soften principles to preserve acceptance. They trade long-term integrity for short-term comfort. This is why the pursuit of being seen often leads to restlessness. No amount of recognition is ever enough. There is always another audience, another comparison, another standard to chase. Freedom begins when this hunger fades, not because you stop caring entirely, but because you stop needing confirmation that your actions matter. They matter because they are right, not because they are noticed. When you release the need to be seen, something stabilizes within you. Your actions slow down, your reactions soften, your sense of self becomes less negotiable. You stop rushing to explain, you stop displaying your virtues, you stop chasing reassurance, you act and then you move on. The prison door was never locked, it was held shut by the belief that attention creates meaning. Once that belief loosens, the grip weakens, and the mind steps into a quieter, stronger form of freedom. 5. What changes? When you truly accept that no one is watching your life as closely as you once believed, the change does not arrive with excitement, it arrives with relief. At first, it can feel unfamiliar, almost empty, as if something important is missing. What disappears is the constant tension of being evaluated. You begin to notice the shift in small moments. You speak without rehearsing sentences in advance. You make decisions without imagining how they will be judged. You move through the day with less inner resistance. This is the first transformation. Your mind grows quieter. You stop replaying conversations after they end. You stop analyzing expressions, tones, and pauses. You stop assuming silence means disapproval because you now understand something essential. Most people are not thinking about you at all. Without that imagined pressure, emotional reactions soften. You no longer feel compelled to defend yourself immediately. Criticism stops feeling like a threat to your identity. Disagreement no longer feels like rejection, not because you became numb, but because you became grounded. Stoic philosophy teaches that peace comes from internal consistency, not external harmony. When your sense of worth is no longer borrowed from others, emotions lose their urgency. You still feel disappointment and frustration, but they pass through you instead of controlling you. The second transformation shows up in your relationships. When you stop seeking approval, connections change shape. Some grow quieter, others fall away completely. This can feel unsettling at first. You may notice that certain people felt close only when you were accommodating, when you listened more than you spoke, when you agreed more than you meant to. As your need for validation fades, those dynamics weaken. You stop overgiving. You stop anticipating needs that were never yours to carry. You stop absorbing emotions that were never your responsibility. This is not cruelty. It is clarity, and clarity reveals which relationships are built on respect rather than convenience. The connections that remain feel different. There is less tension, less performance, less unspoken expectation. You no longer feel the need to impress. You no longer feel guilty for having limits. You no longer feel anxious about disappointing others because you understand something deeper. Disappointment is often the cost of honesty. The third transformation happens within your sense of self once you are no longer living to be seen. Confidence changes form. It becomes quieter, steadier, less reactive. You stop measuring your progress against other people's timelines. You stop questioning your path simply because it looks different. You stop confusing speed with success. Instead, you begin trusting your own judgment again. This trust is not blind, it is earned. It grows from acting in alignment repeatedly, from making decisions that feel right, even when they are uncomfortable, from choosing principle over image again and again. Stoicism places immense value on this kind of self-trust, not because you are always right, but because you are responsible for your choices, and responsibility brings dignity. Another subtle shift appears in how you handle mistakes. When you believe you are constantly being watched, mistakes feel catastrophic, they feel permanent, they feel defining. But when the audience disappears, mistakes return to their true size. They become information, feedback, points of correction. You stop wasting energy hiding errors or justifying them. You adjust, you learn, you move forward. There is no performance left to protect. This makes growth faster, but also calmer. You are no longer trying to appear competent. You are actually becoming competent. The fourth transformation affects how you experience peace. Peace no longer depends on approval, praise, or reassurance. It depends on alignment. You feel at ease even when misunderstood, calm even when unacknowledged, steady even when unnoticed. This kind of peace is not fragile. It does not disappear when circumstances shift. It does not collapse under pressure because it is rooted internally. The Stoics believed the greatest freedom is freedom from inner disturbance, and inner disturbance almost always comes from needing reality to confirm our worth. When you release that need, peace becomes less dramatic, but far more reliable. Finally, your sense of meaning changes. You stop asking, "How does this look?" and start asking, "Is this right?" You stop chasing significance through attention and begin building it through action. Life may appear quieter from the outside, but from the inside, it becomes fuller. You are no longer pulled in multiple directions by expectation. You are no longer fragmented by roles and performances. You become whole. This is the real transformation. Not a new personality, not louder confidence, not a visible reinvention, but a return to yourself. When you accept that no one is watching, you stop acting for approval. When you stop acting for approval, you begin acting with integrity. And integrity simplifies life. Less fear, less noise, less weight. In that simplicity, strength quietly grows. 6. How to live after this realization. Once you accept that no one is truly watching or judging your every move, life adopts a new rhythm. It becomes quieter but more powerful, more deliberate. You begin living on your terms instead of the terms set by imagined critics or external validation. So how do you live differently after realizing this truth? The Stoic approach is simple. Stop performing and start acting. Focus on what you control and release everything else. These are not quick fixes. They are ways of living, daily practices that help you build the strength to live authentically and peacefully even when the world demands something else. One of the first changes you'll notice when you stop performing for approval is that you speak less. Not because you have nothing to say, but because your words carry more weight. Most people fill silence with explanations, justifications, or pleasantries, trying to be understood or liked. In reality, this constant flow of words weakens impact, drains energy, and leaves you exposed to judgment. Stoic thinkers emphasized brevity and clarity in speech. Marcus Aurelius wrote that words should be few but sincere. When you speak less, each word becomes deliberate and intentional. You are no longer speaking to gain approval, you are speaking to express truth. This shift creates clearer boundaries, stronger communication, and a more grounded presence. You stop explaining, you stop justifying, you stop oversharing. Instead, you begin to act and speak in ways that reflect your inner conviction, even if that means remaining silent or withholding information that does not need to be shared. Actionable step. In meetings, social settings, or conversations, practice being concise. Say only what is necessary. Resist the urge to justify yourself or offer long explanations. Living for approval often turns life into a chase for motivation, the feeling of inspiration, excitement, or emotional drive. But motivation is unstable. It comes and goes, usually influenced by external feedback or changing circumstances. Discipline, on the other hand, is consistent. It is the ability to do what must be done even when there is no audience, no applause, and no validation. Discipline means aligning your actions with your values rather than your moods or external pressure. When you stop performing for others, you stop depending on motivation as fuel. You build internal drive. You rely on discipline, a steady, unshakable force that does not depend on how others perceive you. This is the core of Stoic practice. The Stoics were not focused on feeling motivated. They were focused on acting in accordance with principle, regardless of conditions. Identify one area of your life where you have been waiting for motivation to take action. Now replace motivation with discipline. Commit to doing it daily, regardless of how you feel, knowing that each small action contributes to a larger result. When you stop performing for approval, you gain the ability to set boundaries without guilt. Boundaries protect your time, energy, and peace. For many people, setting boundaries feels uncomfortable because they fear judgment, disappointment, or rejection. But once you accept that no one is truly watching, boundaries become an act of integrity rather than defiance. They prevent you from being pulled into demands that are not yours to carry. Boundaries are not selfish. They are an expression of self-respect and self-care. They preserve your peace and protect your energy, especially when others attempt to impose their expectations on you. The Stoics believed strongly in self-control, and clear boundaries are a direct extension of that discipline. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." When you allow others to drain your energy through constant demands, you give away your most valuable resource, time. Practice saying no to things that exhaust you or conflict with your values. Start small, declining an invitation or refusing a request at work. Over time, you build confidence in setting firm, respectful boundaries aligned with your principles. Living for approval often creates a desire to appear perfect. You want to seem flawless, capable, and always in control. This pressure to be perfect becomes paralyzing. It prevents you from starting, experimenting, or taking risks. Fear of failure keeps you frozen. The Stoics understood that perfection is an illusion. There is no perfect way to live or work. What matters is progress, steady movement forward, even in small steps. Stoicism is about resilience, not avoiding mistakes. Actionable step. When you feel tempted to wait until conditions are perfect, take the first step anyway. Focus on progress rather than perfection. Allow yourself to make mistakes and learn from them. Small, consistent actions lead to growth, not the pursuit of an impossible standard. When you stop performing for validation, you begin living by your own values. Decisions are no longer based on what will please others or earn approval, but on what truly matters to you. Stoic philosophy is grounded in virtue, living in alignment with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. The Stoics believed that a life guided by virtue is the highest good and the foundation of lasting peace. Living by your values means acting in accordance with these principles regardless of how others respond. Actionable step. Take time to define your core values, write them down. Return to them whenever you feel uncertain or tempted to please others. Ask yourself, is this choice aligned with my values? If it is, act without fear of judgment. When you stop living for approval, comparison loses its power. Comparison steals joy. It distracts you from your path and pushes you to measure yourself against unrealistic standards. It fuels anxiety and traps you in self-doubt. The Stoics taught that peace comes from focusing on what you can control. You cannot control what others achieve or how they live. You can only control your own actions, thoughts, and responses. When you focus on your path, you stop measuring yourself against the world and begin measuring yourself against your own potential. Actionable step. The next time you catch yourself comparing your progress to someone else's, pause. Redirect your attention to what you control, your actions, your mindset, and your effort. Use comparison only as a tool for learning, not self-judgment. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to the anxiety that comes from living for approval. When validation no longer drives you, you begin to notice what you already have, the opportunities around you, and the ways you can contribute. The Stoics believed gratitude was essential to a peaceful mind. Epictetus said that wealth does not come from having much, but from wanting little. When you appreciate what is already present, the chase for external validation fades and internal peace grows. When you realize that no one is watching or judging your every move, a deep shift occurs. The weight of constant performance lifts, replaced by clarity, strength, and calm. Stoic philosophy teaches that fulfillment does not come from validation, but from alignment with your values, acceptance of what you control, and the courage to live quietly with self-trust.